Hello world, my name is Atticus and welcome to a 2021 year in review vis-a-vis games that came out this year. More specifically, we're doing a top 10 list. This is going to be a bad top 10 list. Your favorite game will probably not be on it. Games have to have released this year to make this list. Cannot be remakes, re-releases, or DLC of existing games unless they significantly change the game. Say 0.22474487139 version change at least. And have to be a game I personally played. That last one's a kicker, because I played a grand total of 15 games that meet the other criteria. 2 of which barely qualify, and most I only played a few hours of before other commitments and new games stole my attention away. In no particular order other than 10th to 1st, we begin with Voice of Cards, The Isle Dragon Roars. It's one of 3 games that came out this year that I actually beat, and I only saw one of the 4 endings, and it wasn't even the secret, probably true ending. Whoops. Voice of Cards, or Voctiter if you prefer, took a theme and absolutely ran with it. The frame of the narrative is a tabletop game being played by you and a narrator who has put the tale together and arranged the world, which consists entirely of cards. It's a neat premise, and I love seeing all the little touches they added to really sell the concept. I was able to beat the game once, gather all the stuff needed for the secret ending, and get back to the final dungeon in under 18 hours, which I think is a plus. Might actually go and finish the rest of the game after this. It's a fun game, and if you like turn-based RPGs, you'll probably like this one alright too. Coming in at number 9 is Scarlet Nexus. Man, I have a lot of thoughts about Scarlet Nexus, but they're all pretty spoilery. It does entirely too much. I haven't beaten it, but I think I got pretty far into Yuito's story, and so far the story goes just about everywhere imaginable. There's a lot to like in this game, but the story ended up just being exhausting for me. Maybe one day I'll go back and beat it so I can make a full video about it. The next title, number 8 for those of you keeping track, is Tales of Arise, another Bandai Namco joint, and the game that made me ask, what does Bandai Namco know about the moon that we don't? To give minor spoilers for this and the previous title, both games feature the moon in their narrative, specifically in an antagonistic sense. And I just feel like Bandai's trying to tell us something. I haven't beaten Arise either, but I mostly got distracted by other things. So far, I've got 11 hours in the game, and I fully intend to at least double that. It seems to have a more standard fare when it comes to narrative, but I've only got 11 hours in the game, and I started playing it right after beating Tales of Berseria, a game which, from what I've heard, upends the standard Tales formula. I think it's a good game, the 8th best that came out this year, and if you like Tales games, you'll probably like this one too. Why are we doing this? What's the point? What does any of this add? Lucky number 7 goes to Ender Lilies, Quietus of the Nights. I played through the demo and a little bit beyond a while after it officially released, and I enjoyed it a lot. It's got great music, very atmospheric. I always thought the Souls-like genre would be improved by adding a bit of Pokemon, and Ender Lilies endeavors to prove it. That's all I've got. I can't guarantee you'll like it if you just like Monster Rancher, but if you like both Monster Rancher and Sultan Sanctuary, you'll probably enjoy Ender Lilies. Number next is Death's Door, and this would probably be number higher if I played more than 47 minutes of it. Really? Just 47 minutes? Good grief. Well, placing so well against such fierce competition, despite the mere sampling it's received, is certainly a high mark for Death's Door. It's cute, it's got birds, it's got doors, and death. What more could you want? You'll probably like this game. Go try it. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is a game I played more than 47 minutes of, and one I enjoyed. It's my first Ratchet & Clank game, but I didn't feel terribly lost. They provide an expository tutorial and do a good job of explaining everything else along the way. I cannot readily recommend this if you like Ratchet & Clank games, as I have not played any of the others, but I'll still make that recommendation. It just makes sense, you know? We make a video every month talking about things with barely to no qualifications, but why? It's not for the views. Is it to leave some form of lasting legacy? Something to point to and say, they existed. This is a terrible way to do that. Hard disk drives only last about 4 years before something fails, and while solid state drives are more stable, they're still limited by a number of rights they can perform. These videos will survive for as long as we and YouTube maintain them, and then maybe for a few years after that. They will not survive long enough to be the last vestige of our existence jutting out of a sand-swept desert. Our legacy will have less staying power than that of old paper. Even if YouTube lasts eternal, there will probably be a better video format, and the MP4 we use will become obsolete, near impossible to view without equally old and hard to find hardware. Or maybe YouTube will do us the courtesy of updating our videos to keep with the times for the rest of human existence, but still, even then, the world will eventually end, one way or another, be it catastrophic climate change, nuclear warfare, or when the sun explodes in 5 billion years. The world we know will end, and everything we've done will be wiped from existence with it. So why bother? Why scramble the last week of the year to slap together a new video to fit with a schedule change when ultimately it won't matter if we made a video this December or any December? Is it for us? Do we do it for ourselves? Who are we even? I'm not the same person who made The Joy of Repetition a year ago. I'm not even the same person who made last month's Glitch Delve. We are each Theseus's ship, built up with new experiences and old parts swapped for new. The me who wrote this will not be the me who records, and neither of us will be the one who edits the video. Odds are yet another me will be the one to upload. So doing this can't be for me. I don't know who I'll be tomorrow, even. Anything could happen between now and then. Entire futures decided in a moment. I can't even say this is for people close to me. We die to each other daily. What we know of other people is only our memory of the moments during which we knew them, and they have changed since then, as T.S. Eliot said. So, why? Why persist in an ever-changing world that is hurtling towards doom probably faster than its 5 billion year expiration date? There are two answers I could give, though one would be ending on a rather dour note, so we'll set that aside for now. We, indeed, do it to leave a legacy, even if only an impermanent one. And we do it for ourselves, or the versions of us that will exist later, and likewise the future versions of all of you, the you who is watching this right now, the you who will remember this later, hopefully fondly. Just because the world will end, just because a legacy will cease to exist, just because one day I will die, and one day no one will even remember that I lived, or will know of anything I have or will have created does not mean that any action between now and then is meaningless. We can still impact the lives of those around us, or the lives of those who will find our work long after our death. Van Gogh, or Van Gogh, if I've got that pronunciation right, died with no one appreciative of the art he made, but his work persists today and has inspired millions to pursue art, and will probably continue to inspire millions more. At the end of the world, when his art, the people he inspired, and all of their art no longer exists, you might say that none of it ultimately mattered. But it mattered to them. It mattered to him enough to create over 2,000 pieces. And I don't think that's worth nothing. I don't think at the end of the world it will be rendered meaningless because no one remembers it. As transient as it is, I think there's intrinsic value in improving life, yours or others. I won't go on to make some grand claim like I make these videos to better the lives of the viewers. I don't think they're going to do that. But I make them for me. I make them for the depressing reason. But if they can help someone in any fashion, I would be ecstatic. As for doing stuff for ourselves or the people close to us, while we can't be certain, we can still say with some degree of confidence approximately who will be tomorrow based on who we are today and who we've been in the days leading up till now. A single moment could still drastically alter that, for good or bad. Perhaps you win the lottery and find a life of financial worry behind you. Perhaps your father calls to say your stepmother passed. You don't know these things in advance, you can't, but you still know who you are and approximately who you'll be. And you know the actions you can take to create a better life for the years to come. And again, I think that things that will improve your life are things worth doing. These aren't new or revolutionary ideas. They're the answers I've had to the question why for a few years now, but the question still persists all the time. Whenever I have even the tiniest sliver of doubt, why bother? And every time I remind myself, even if only the depressing reason, that there is a point. That even in a meaningless world, we are capable of creating our own reasons for being. And that is enough, even if only because it has to be. The fourth best game I played this year, that also came out this year, was Bravely Default 2. There are a few RPGs on this list, action and turn-based. Maybe I should branch out more. It's been over half a year since I played Bravely Default 2, and I'd like to finish it, but my save file is on the Switch, and I haven't used my Switch in roughly half a year, except to play an upcoming game on this very list. You would probably like Bravely Default 2 if you've been interested by anything else on this list, except Rift Apart, maybe Ender Lilies. At long last, we reached the top 3, first of which is Nier Replicant version 1.22474487139. What an interesting game, and an intriguing series. This is a blast to play, and I haven't gotten to the overly depressing bits yet. I'm about halfway through my first playthrough, just past the time skip, and I made sure to collect all the weapons, so I should be good to see all the endings. I'm excited and worried. Would recommend, much like Death's Door, without the caveat of liking anything else. In fact, that'll be my recommendation for all the top 3 titles. You should try them out if you get the chance. They're real great. Second, or potentially first, depending on the validity of the winning entry, is Metroid Dread, the game that's consumed all my Switch time. I actually beat this one. A marvel for this list. Dread was my first Metroid game, and hey, those are pretty fun. I said I'd recommend without caveats, but you like Metroidvanias? You'll at least half like Metroids. It was challenging, and a few bosses took more than a couple of tries, but it was a great time, and I think I beat it in either 11 or 18 hours. I'm not entirely certain which. But we love a game that respects your time. I could absolutely have spent more or less time too. I spent a bit of time near the end backtracking and getting extra resources for the fights ahead, something that proved absolutely vital. But I did not go so far as to 100% the title. And last, and literally the furthest thing from least, is our number one entry, critically acclaimed MMO FF14's latest expansion, Endwalker. As an expansion to a game that came out over a decade ago, you could rightly say it doesn't belong here, in which case bump everything else up and make Persona 5 Strikers number 10. And if you say that game released in Japan a year ago, use Neo The World Ends With You instead, a game that certainly would have placed on this list if I spent more time with it than I did with Death's Door before working on this list. Back to the actual winner though, Endwalker has a bit of an edge over the competition, concluding a story that has, again, been a decade in the making. All of the gameplay is equally a decade old, but instead of being the same and growing stale, it's been refined and iterated into an incredible experience. If you don't like, or are afraid of, the social aspect of an MMO, you can get through most of the game ignoring everyone around you. There are certain benefits to joining an FC, this game's version of a guild, especially an active one, but you can easily get through the story without it. The main benefit is housing and experience buffs. But main scenario stuff is usually enough to keep your level where it needs to be for your main job. Where you can't ignore other people is in main scenario dungeons and trials or boss fights. Fortunately, the game does have systems in place that will team you up with other people to tackle the content, and in my experience, people are usually fairly chill about it all. If you want to be able to play through the content pretending that everyone there is an NPC instead of a person, I'd recommend taking a DPS class, since you can just play as usual without worrying about how everyone else is doing. At least, that's what I do. And I like to think I'm at least halfway decent at the game. And that's it. That's our top 10 list for 2021. Is it the same as your list? Almost certainly not. But maybe you've also got Metroid Dread and Death's Door on there. So that's nice. Next year is shaping up to be great for games as well, with Elden Ring coming out and probably other games. I hope you all are looking forward to it as much as we are. We'll be sure to bring you the same monthly entertainment as always, and thank you for participating.